Patterns of evil within the Daystar organization. We've been talking about this, and I said long ago that there would probably come a time in this story where we would hear from another family member about similar types of things going down. Here we are, now some 2 months after Jonathan and Susie originally gave their story about the unfortunate situation that occurred with their daughter. Now we have yet another family member who has spoke out. This is the nephew of Joni Lamb, who worked for Daystar along with his wife. This would be Jonathan Lamb's cousin. They said that now this was their time to speak out. And they put it all out there. Very disturbing what they had to share, but they believed that now was the right time to do it. Especially after Jonathan and Susie came forward. They were brave enough to depart from the family, to not just stick with them for the money, the fame, the notoriety, all that it comes with. And wouldn't you know that Joni Lamb had attempted to cause a divide between Jonathan and Susie and his cousin and his wife. The words rebellious and Jezebel were directed here at Joni's nephew and his wife by Joni. Sound familiar? This caused for a time a temporary falling out between Jonathan and his cousin. Now, though, they're seemingly on the same page because they have something in common. As parents, as fathers, they now can say that they have both had one of their own, one of their littles, who have been creeped on by a family member. Here's the thing, though, and as we go through their story, this other family member that creeped after their little was not Pete. So it's somebody else. So there is a sick pattern of this behavior within the Lamb family. If this didn't cause all the Daystar programmers to leave before, with what Jonathan and Susie talked about with their story, I hope that maybe now this will, although somehow I doubt it. We will get into it more in just a second, but before we do, I want to welcome all of you to Not By Sight News. Yes, a blind Christian guy here reporting to you, reminding you as always that we walk by faith, not by sight. For someone like me, that's kind of my only option. If you guys could do me a huge favor, hit that like button for me. Share this video around. When you do that, you are helping get these videos out there more in the algorithm, in the recommended section. Gets more eyes on our content, does us a great service, and you get these videos out to a wider audience. It helps us in furthering our mission here to expose church corruption, to call out those wolves in the pulpit, and protect the vulnerable. So thank you so much to everybody who does that, and I hope you're all having a wonderful day. I just want to take a moment here to once again thank laura-lynn Tyler Thompson for giving me a shout out on her show the other night. It was on her show that she put out on Tuesday, January 21st. Great job as usual. And hey, she got 100K subs now. So you guys go give laura-lynn some love, some congratulations on 100K. That is awesome. And I appreciate her again for her coverage, her dedication to staying on top of this story in the midst of all the arrows that are being, fired her way and all the, insults that she's had to take over these last several weeks, and she just keeps on going. So you guys give her give her some love, give her a shout out, go sub to her channel if you haven't already done so. She's absolutely great. And again, I appreciate her mentioning me on her show the other night. That was really cool of her. Speaking of that, we're going to get into what was discussed on that show. As many of you know, various whistleblowers have been chiming in. They have been speaking out. They have been sending in letters, many over to Laura-Lynn, about their experiences working at the network. But this one right here, this is the first time that a family member, okay, other than Jonathan and Susie, have decided to speak out. Now, I know a lot of people have been waiting on Rebecca Lamb and JW to come forward. But remember, Jonathan Lamb said that they had signed an NDA, that they had chose the path of silence. He said this, of course, when himself and Susie had Laura-Lynn over to their home. And that was the first time that we had heard that mentioned publicly. There was speculation on it before. She probably signed an NDA. That's why she hasn't come forward. But that day we heard it for sure. So with the other things that we've heard about the mortgage being tied to Daystar as well, they've probably, maybe not long term, but remember, if there's a criminal investigation here, that NDA ain't going to hold up. So Joni may not like it, but sooner rather than later, Rebecca and JW may have to speak. So keep praying that the little lamb talks, because that's the key to this whole thing. Now, for all we know, maybe she already has. And if she has, we're not going to hear anything about it, at least not right away, until a proper arrest is made of Pete and maybe others as well that had prior knowledge. So we'll just have to wait and see how that all pans out. But again, we're talking here about other members of the family. Joni Lamb's nephew, okay? We don't know the names, okay? They're coming forward, anonymous, but they were willing to say that they are part of the Lamb family. So let's get into this. This is, again, Jonathan's cousin, Joni's nephew. And as I stated earlier, there had been a temporary falling out between Jonathan and his cousin, but it was because of the division from Joni. And planting that seed again that, they're rebellious and that the wife is a Jezebel and all of that. What she called Susie. Jonathan was called rebellious, remember? By Tom Callender. Jonathan, you're being rebellious, son. Son, you're being rebellious. I love you, though. Jonathan, you got the spirit of Ahab in you, boy. You're being rebellious, but I love you. I love you. If you guys missed my Tom Callender, I did an impression video. It's getting some really good reaction. I didn't think it was going to get this good of a reaction. You guys seem to like it. If you missed that video, it's up on my channel right now. Check it out. Make sure you share it. But we're hoping that we can get Jonathan himself to see it. That would be cool just to get his take on it and everything. I had some fun with it. It's just I did it off the top of my head. I didn't even I didn't sit here and craft out a whole sketch comedy bit. I just put it all together. It's pretty funny. Go check it out. I was telling people that I was getting into my Tom mode. I got to get into Tom mode here, Jonathan. And I ended up pulling my mic cord out when I was starting it because I was getting all into it. I was getting all excited. I was like, boom, I pulled the mic cord out of myself. Oh, geez. So, but thankfully it still sounds decent. So let's get into this. You have Joni's nephew who writes here in this email to Laura-Lynn, says that he worked for Daystar from 2015 until 2021. Now, I found it interesting that 2021, that was the same year. That was the same year that Jonathan and Susie's daughter, everything that happened there at the vacation home there on the beach. I don't know the exact time of the year in 2021 where they left, but it's just interesting, again, that it falls on that year. It seems like everything was coming to a head around this time. Also, that was the same year that Marcus Lamb had passed away. So the Joni Lamb's nephew and his wife, they're working for Daystar, and he mentions the chiropractor. So the chiropractor is coming back up again. Now remember, the chiropractor was a friend of Joni and Marcus Lamb, and we went over it here on my show. We went over the rap sheet of this guy. I mean, the stuff that he had been charged with was ridiculous. And in no way, shape, or form, and he didn't even have a license at the time, and in no way, shape, or form did he have any business working at this organization. But what did we hear from Joni? He's a nice man. He's a nice man. No, leave the poor guy alone. He said that, or I should say, Joni said that to Laura-Lynn on the night that she got that phone call from her when she was doing her show, letting everybody know that she was leaving Daystar. Remember, she was the first one. And what was Joni bringing up? The chiropractor. She said that he's a nice man and that Susie was a pathological liar. I don't think Susie's the one. That's the pathological liar. I think that's something called projection. That's a Joni special right there. That's the old projection special. She's good at that. And then remember from the story, Susie was mistreated, if you know what I mean, by the chiropractor. And then she says that Joni and Marcus paid the guy off on his way out the door. Now, he passed away, I believe it was in 2021, also the same year that Marcus Lamb passed away. Interesting. Well, we went over the rap sheet. This guy had all sorts of offenses, and even one that involved littles and mistreating them. So how this guy was, you got to think, with all of the little lambs running around, were they safe? Absolutely not. And that's going to be a common theme as we share this story here of Joni's nephew. So they're made aware of the chiropractor. And Joni even tells her nephew, she says, look, we always have somebody present in the room when the chiropractor is working on people. And so the nephew said, that makes sense, right? Especially if, he's working on young women. So the nephew tells the story about how he was present in the room throughout, every time his wife would get a chiropractic adjustment, and everything seemed fine at first until the chiropractor started getting a little annoyed. He started looking a little irritated that the husband was still in the room. And then he began, this being the chiropractor, began to make inappropriate comments about his wife's body. Are we surprised by this at all? Are we surprised by this? Crossing the line. Letting the husband know here, your wife look good. Like, he's, doing the chiropractor thing. He's cracking, he's snapping, he's twerking, he's working, whatever you want to say. And, he's making these inappropriate comments. Now, was that because the husband continued to be in the room? See, obviously, this guy didn't like that very much. And remember what Susie said. Her assistant. There were two, and I always come back to this. It's very interesting. There's two different stories here with Susie. Susie says that her assistant stepped out to use the restroom, right? And this is that time where she was then mistreated by him. But Joni's account, Joni wasn't even there. Her and Marcus were out of town. Well, what did Joni say? Oh, well, I talked to the assistant and she said that she didn't see anything, the assistant was in the room and she never saw anything. So Susie said the assistant had stepped out. Joni said she talked to the assistant was in the room and didn't see anything improper going on. Would love to know and hear from that assistant. I said that from the beginning. Where is she? Did she sign an NDA? I don't even know if she still works for Daystar anymore. But again, I believe Susie. I believe Susie with this. So here we go with the nephew, and the chiropractor is, again, making inappropriate comments about his wife's body. But then later on that night, the nephew gets a text message from the chiropractor, and he says that he wants to take him and his wife out for dinner. Oh, this is out of the blue. Maybe the guy was feeling bad, right? But it wasn't just dinner. He said afterwards, I want you guys to come over to my house to go swimming. Oh, we're going to go do some swimming. It was a splish splash. I was taking a bath all upon a Saturday night with Joni's chiropractor. Oh, come on over. We're going to have a swim. But he didn't just leave it there. He said, oh, and make sure, by the way, again, this is in a text message to the nephew. Make sure you have your wife bring her swimsuit. Now, look, I'm not the brightest guy in the world. I will admit that, okay? I mean, Joni would never want me at Daystar. I don't have a college degree, okay? I don't. I've never preached a sermon before. I don't have 175 years of ministry experience like she does, apparently. So I'm not the brightest guy, but if you're going to invite somebody over to go swimming, isn't it already kind of obvious that you got to bring a swimsuit? I'm just saying. Again, I know I'm not the smartest guy out there, but you would think that goes without saying. But it was that little comment, right? Make sure your wife, not him, by the way, not the husband. No, make sure your wife brings her swimsuit, because I'm sure he was just licking his lips, waiting. See the nephew's wife coming, walking up there to the pool. Chiropractor sitting there, licking his lip, be like, ooh, wee, you look good. He's thinking about stuff, and again, he wants to go in there and a little splish splash, and he's taking a bath. It's inappropriate. So the nephew brought this up to Joni. What did Joni do? Dismissed it. Nah, you just, look, you're just causing problems here. You're causing problems. He's a good guy. He's a good guy. No, he wasn't. No. And I still would love to know what did this chiropractor have on the lambs? We're probably never going to know. But the fact that they were willing, look, and it's just, again, you got to be super smart to know this. The fact that they went they kept going out of their way to protect this guy, to prop him up, to call him nice. Oh, he's a Christian now. That was the other thing, right? Oh, he's got a past, sure, but he's changed. No, he didn't. He didn't change. The safety of those working at Daystar, especially the family. So it was dismissed. Nothing to see here. Let's talk about the nephew's wife. She's got a part in this too. In this part of the letter, the wife talked about how she worked in the marketing department. And worked under Rachel Lamb. And here we go again. She talks here about how Rachel created a toxic work environment, that she was nervous to be around her. She had witnessed her multiple times making fun of one of her friends. We've heard that, there's been other whistleblowers that have come in with their stories, and they've said, Rachel is like the epitome of a mean girl, of a bully. That really, she's the one that's controlling Daystar at the end of the day. Or as Tom Callender would say, Daystar, Daystar. We don't pronounce the R in the end. We just say Daystar. It's all Daystars. Jonathan, I love you. Sign the NDA. I can't help myself. I gotta laugh because this stuff is hard, guys. It's rough. It takes a lot out of you. And I know that others out there covering this. I know Laura-Lynn knows this. I know Pastor Ray from the Unction knows this. I know Ohio for Freedom knows this. And so many of the other great ones out there who are covering this. I'm sure James White knows this too. Joshua Simone of Torn Curtain. We all know. So I try my best to put some humor into this because we haven't even gotten to the real crazy stuff yet here. So the wife had brought these concerns up to Joni, and it was again dismissed. And she was told to basically get in the line. Well, eventually, the wife ended up stepping down from the marketing department. Couldn't do it anymore. Can't blame her. I mean, just can't blame her. And she took some time off, started going back to school. But eventually, she went to work for Heart for the World. And she really had a desire to work in the prayer department. That's where she saw herself. So she had an interview set up. And what do you know? And this wasn't expected. It wasn't like she was told this, but her interview ended up being with Joni Lamb. So how awkward, right? After leaving the marketing department and everything that she brought up to Joni about Rachel and how it was just, dismissed. No, Rachel's fine, whatever. But also present were Jonathan, as Tom would say. I can't help but almost do that every time I mention his name. Jonathan, along with Susie's dad. So as they're there, they're getting ready to start the interview. Joni asks Jonathan and Susie's father to step away. Let me have a one-on-one moment here with this woman, with my nephew's wife. And Joni said this. This is, again, all allegedly according to the cousin's wife, and both of them. Joni said, look, I want to put you on a 3-month probation. You want to work here at the prayer department? I want to put you on a 3-month probation. And the conditions of this probation. Actually, y'all mind? Can I have a drink of? You guys mind if I have a drink of my coffee? I'm drinking a white chocolate Americano. I love coffee. If you guys love coffee, I'm obsessed. Y'all got to let me know what's your favorite coffee. Put it down in the comment section because I got to know. That's good stuff. So, Joni says, I want you to like and comment on Rachel's social media posts. Now, imagine she hears that and she's like, what? Excuse me? I want you to like and comment on Rachel's social media posts. Joni was apparently very concerned that Rachel wasn't getting enough attention on her posts. She wasn't getting enough likes. She wasn't getting enough comments. And after everything that we've heard, I could totally see this happening. I could totally see this conversation between Joni and Rachel, one-on-one. And Rachel's like, Mom, nobody's liking my social media posts. I don't get it. Look at me. I'm pretty. I'm going to take over the network one day. And I'm putting out all these posts about me and Joshua and just how great we are. And I'm just getting such little interaction. Mom, help me. What am I going to do? I could see it. And Joni, Joni's probably looking at her like all right, Rachel, look, I'll think of something, right? So, whatever. But yeah, that is what her nephew's wife said that Joni wanted her to do. Just like and comment. So later that night, she talked about how she did that. She went on to social media, whatever, I don't know whatever social media profile, whether it was, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, Instagram. And she started to like and to comment. Now, That same night, this is what Joni's nephew's wife said, that she got a text from Joni, and Joni said, Rachel actually asked me. She asked me if you were told by me to like and comment on her social media posts. And Joni said that she told Rachel no. Like, so imagine you're sitting there and, you know, Rachel, I guess, must have known, because like she sees, and again, we don't know her name, but, you know, she sees the girl's name here, you know, pop up in the comment section and all of that, and maybe hitting the like button and all that. And she's like, oh my God, sorry, let me do it. Oh my God, someone liked my post. Like, what? Like, really? Like, right? Like, what? Like, and then Joni lied to her. Like, she lied to her. Like, again, we go back to the whole Susie's a pathological liar, right? But no, Joni lies to her daughter, says, no, I didn't tell her that. I didn't tell her to like your social media post. I didn't tell her to comment. I mean, why would I do that? It's just weird. And if you go back to what we've heard from some of these other whistleblowers, when they say, like, Rachel's the one that runs that, and, like, maybe Joni might even be afraid of her. like, I don't want to cross my daughter, so I got to just give her what she wants. And that's what so many have said. She gets whatever she wants. She asks for something, she gets it. Those that worked in the marketing department, they often talked about, some of these whistleblowers, about how whatever project that they were working on didn't matter. You know, Rachel would say, look, no, don't matter. You're going to put that to the side and you're going to do what I want you to do. So such a, like, 3 months probation. Please go like and comment on my daughter's social media post. Interestingly enough, she didn't mention Rebecca. I wasn't liking or commenting on Rebecca's post. It was liking and commenting on Rachel's posts. Like, Mom, no one likes me. Like, will you please tell her to like my posts? All right. So there's that. But now this is where things really take a turn. And now you'll understand why I try to put comedy in here and make you guys laugh. Because then we got to get into the heavy stuff like this. All jokes aside. All impressions aside. As fun as they are. But what do you guys think? By the way, let me know in the comments. What do you think of this? That's actually the first time I did the Rachel Lamb, my Rachel Lamb impression. People want me to do more. So you guys can let me know in the comment section. Do you want more of the Rachel Lamb impression? Let me know. Getting back to Joni's nephew. He talked about how at another point, now again, this is during the 6 to 7 years that he was a part of Daystar. Remember, 2015 to 2021, that's our timeline here. The nephew and his wife became increasingly concerned about a family member. Again, this is not Pete. I want to stress that once more. For those that maybe, because there's some people, they fast forward or whatever, they may have missed it. I'm going to say it again and again and again. This was not Pete, okay? It's bad enough when you got one of these dudes in the family, but if there's a second one now, what are we doing? Seriously, what are we doing? So they became increasingly concerned about inappropriate comments that were being made by a family member. Not only comments, but actions as well. The nephew goes on to share that at this particular point in time, while him and his wife were at Daystar, they were very close to becoming parents. And his wife was obviously carrying. And this family member at one point came up to them and said, hey, you know, if you decide that you want to just get rid of it, if you know what I mean, I know somebody that you can talk to. Now, that is an absolutely horrific and evil thing to say. You're working for a Christian organization and you make a comment like that. This is again a family member. We don't know who this family member is. Okay, we do not know. You got Joni's nephew, who is allegedly saying now that this other member within the Lamb family is making these comments. I know somebody who can help you get rid of it. That wasn't all. That wasn't all. Another time, they overheard the same family member on the phone talking to a telemarketer. And the family member had said, yeah, hang on 1 second. I'll get right back to you just as soon as I get done having you know what with a goat. This person is sick. They're sick. Okay, so you're hearing this, right? And the type of communication, the type of words that are coming out of their mouth. Right? Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, right? So they have a meeting with Joni. The nephew speaks to Joni and says, this is what this guy is saying. You know what Joni says? Joni dismisses it as saying, don't worry about that. Some Christians just have a different sense of humor. A different sense of humor. That's humorous to you? Trying to tell your nephew and his wife that if you don't want to keep it, I know someone who can help you get rid of it. That's Christian humor? Wow, I guess I don't know what Christian humor is anymore. Like what I do with the voices I do, the impressions, that's Christian humor. Or just humor. But that's what the nephew alleges that Joni said. Christian humor. Some people just have a different sense of humor. I just dismiss it. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. We're all family. We have to get along here. Again, very similar to what we've heard from Jonathan and Susie, right? We got to get along. We've got to get along. As if the inappropriate language was not enough, they brought up another. Now, this is what they said in their letter. This was multiple occasions that same family member who was making the inappropriate comments apparently took quite an interest in diaper changing time. By this point, the nephew and his wife had brought their little into the world. They had arrived. Remember, the same little that this family member was allegedly saying that, I can help you get rid of it. Multiple occasions, the family member would do everything in their power to make sure that they were present and around during changing time. One specific instance occurred at Joni's lake house. And the little was obviously in need of a change. So the nephew said that his wife told him, okay, we're going to go do a changing. Susie Lamb then sees that same family member going into the room where the changing was taking place to get a closer look. And then Susie caught him. Now, this is interesting to me. And because what did Susie do? She caught Pete, right? Trying to go up the stairs when their daughter was going to get ready to go change into the swimsuit. Just like that here too. Now that's got to be the Holy Spirit right there. Putting that discernment in her. Say, hey, keep your eye on this dude. And then she was able to alert Joni's nephew's wife as the guy was in there. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing in here? Oh, he didn't have an answer. And then he left. Now, again, this happened, according to them, multiple times. that anytime any sort of changing was going down with the little, he was around, tried to be in the room. Then there was the moment where they said this was the very last straw. It was a movie night. It was a movie night. And they had their little was in the other room sleeping. And the family member had gone into that room where the little was. Now, the room was dark at the time, but Joni's nephew ended up finding him sitting there, all by himself. Just him and the little sitting there. How creepy is that? Now, it's important to know that he had his own room upstairs. Okay, it wasn't like he was sleeping in that room. He had his own room. But he chose to go again near their little. And every other time, too, that they would attempt to changing the little. I call them littles. That's what I call them. And they said, what are you doing? And then he was told, or let's say Joni's nephew was told by this man's family that, well, this room is his safe room. He feels safe. Wait, what about their little? I don't think the little, they don't think they felt that their little felt safe. They didn't feel safe with him near. So all of this was brought up to Joni. All of this was brought up to Joni. And Joni, again, much like with Pete, tried to dismiss this as nothing. It's not what it seems. It's not what it seems. I want to point out something too. Going back to that interview that the nephew's wife had with Joni about working there in the prayer department, Joni had told her there that I believe in these, having a teachable heart. And then she talked about how Susie has a teachable heart. Remember, there was a period of time where Joni was working with Susie to try and, basically get her to be the next Joni and take over things and keep the family in line. And it was like a mentoring type of deal. So she talked to her nephew's wife and said, again, Susie has a teachable heart. You need to have a teachable heart. It's all about submission again, right? Do what I say. Come under my authority. As long as you do what I say, everything is going to be all right. Everything is going to be all right. But these very serious allegations of this family member who wanted to be close to their little, especially during changing time, again, Joni dismissed. But not only did she dismiss it, she told her nephew, allegedly, that I want you to go to counseling. I have a counselor for you I want you to see. Here we go again. But it was a counselor that Joni would pick out. That Joni would pick out. And think about this for a second. Why would somebody have to go to counseling because they didn't want to be around another family member who they didn't feel comfortable around? That's not a call for counseling. That's actually a call for discernment that this couple had, thank God. And when they told Joni, we don't want to be around this family member anymore, they were again called rebellious. His wife was called a Jezebel. You're breaking up the family. Joni went around to others in the family. This is, again, what caused a short-term divide between Jonathan and his cousin because of that. Causing the division. You're giving us problems. There were repeated meetings that the nephew had to go into with Joni where she tried to, again, get him in line. Get him in line. And in one particular case, she tried to gaslight him. This is, again, like, the whole moment with Jimmy Evans, like, when Joni said, Susie's got you by the you-know-what. She basically said that here with her nephew by saying, you have to be very careful you have to use wisdom in what you share with your wife. Use wisdom. Meaning what? Don't tell her what I don't want her to know. If you see a family member acting creepy, don't tell her. Don't tell your wife that. She's got no reason in the world to know. You need to use wisdom. Another meeting talks about how Joni brought in his boss. And this was an attempt to, again, try to get this guy to submit. The boss had brought up the importance of respecting the elders, your elders. Oh, here we go with that, right? And how family is important. It's the most important thing. Yeah, it's real important to them, right? No, it's not important when there are potential, I'll just say, creeps that are running around that could potentially bring down that ministry. Now then the family, that's just, you're not seeing nothing here, right? Hey mom, it's me, Rachel. I'm over here. Can you please have somebody like my post? I couldn't resist. Joni also told the nephew that this constant bringing up of the family member was causing a dip in his performance. Again, where have we heard that from before? It wasn't causing any sort of a dip in his performance at all. No, this is just what she was saying. Then there was one final meeting between the nephew and Joni. And this one was a little bit different, at least at first. Joni tried to be nice this time and said to her nephew, one day, I see you. I am trying to prep you, nephew, because you are going to be Jonathan's right-hand man. You two are going to run Daystar together. Okay, again, all of this can be yours, just like when the enemy tried to tempt Jesus by saying that, again, I can give you all the kingdoms of the world if you'll just submit to me. All this can be yours. Right? But the nephew would not relent. And again, brought up the counselor. Joni tried to then force him to go. Would not go. Again, this situation did not call for a counselor over very credible reasons for not wanting to be around a certain family member anymore who not only made inappropriate comments, but was acting inappropriately around their little during changing time. When he refused to do the counseling, he says this is when Joni became very angry. She was staring daggers at him. Threatened his job. Okay, well, if you're not going to play ball, you're not going to do what I say, then you're going to be out of here. It was at that moment that the nephew realized that God was releasing them from Daystar. It was time for them to go. No longer could they stay. No longer could they stay. We don't know the exact year. We just know, again, they worked there from about 2015 to 2021. Not only did they leave Daystar, but they left the state of Texas altogether. And good for them. They left they didn't have any other job lined up. They were gone. They had to get out of there. That's what they did. And they said that they felt that it was time to speak out. This was the time, after hearing Jonathan and Susie's story. And what they went, very similar, very, very similar of what they went through. Let me look at it. The nephew's wife and the chiropractor, Jonathan, Susie, Susie and the chiropractor had their thing go down. And both of their littles. And what did Joni do? She tried to, bring a wedge between them, between the two cousins. But then in that last meeting, try to tell her nephew, oh, it can all be yours. You're going to be Jonathan's right-hand man. Just submit, man. Just submit. Go to the counselor that I have. What would they even do in the... What type of counseling? It's so weird. It doesn't even make sense. But yet, I guess when you're Joni and you can say that God told you Pete was cleared, I mean, who are you to question it, right? And still, here we sit. No third-party investigation at all. Joni has not resigned. Nobody in that organization has. They're continuing to try this business as usual approach. And I will point out again that every other top ministry that I have covered who has fallen into this sort of sin, at least they have been willing to fire a leader, tell a leader they have to resign, bring in a third party, but not Daystar. They are the only one, major one at least, that is still being rebellious and being resistant. And see, that's a dangerous road to go down because they may escape earthly justice, but they will not escape eternal justice. When they have to go before the Lord one day and they have to give an account, that's it. God doesn't want this for anybody. But he may tell them, depart from me, I never knew you. Eternal separation from the Lord should be something that they fear, but they don't, because they think that they are above God. They think they are God, the voice of God. They can control. They can manipulate, all under the guise of a ministry that takes your donations, uses it to further their lavish lifestyle. Buy another mansion, right? While they have creeps that are employed within their organization that put the safety of littles at risk. And yet they tell you, please donate to us. Help us in furthering the gospel of Jesus Christ. Yeah, okay. We share these stories and we continue to talk about this because we are trying to wake up those who may still be asleep, that may view this organization as righteous when in fact it is not righteous. It is unrighteous. It is operating in complete and total sin and rebellion unto the Lord. But remember that even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. Daystar says they are the light. I say they are the darkness. But what do you guys think? You can sound off down below in the comment section about all that we discussed today. It's always great having you here. Also, if you really enjoy and appreciate the work here of Not By Sight News, the fact that we do expose church corruption, we call out the wolves in the pulpit and protect the vulnerable, and if you would like to see it continue, consider making a generous donation to help fund our operation here. There are multiple ways that you can contribute, and you also help us out with my wife's recovery from multiple health issues, including suffering a stroke, being diagnosed with a clotting disorder, and also a lupus diagnosis that leaves her in quite a bit of pain and discomfort. And the ways that you can contribute to us, one of those is by going over to our GoFundMe. We created a GoFundMe to help out. The link to that is in the description of this video and all videos. You can also become a monthly contributor by joining our Patreon for as little as $5 a month. Patreon.com/NotBySightNews. That link also in the description. And then finally, you can just hit the super thanks button on the YT video here. Although I will tell you that if you choose that option, YT does take 30% for themselves. So if you do want to make sure that we get the majority of your generous gift, then GoFundMe or Patreon will be your best options. And we, again, thank you so much for the support. We cannot do this without you. What I want to do right now, something I do on all these videos, and that's end this video on hope. It's part of my ministry outreach. This is an altar call. I've been doing this on my videos since 2016. No matter what it is that I'm discussing in the church, exposing the corruption of the wolves that occupy its pulpits, we always want to give people the opportunity to receive Christ as Savior. That being said, anybody watching now, if you are somebody who has not yet received Jesus as Lord and Savior and you would like to do so, I want to lead you in a prayer to do that right now. This is a prayer that you could do in your own words, but I will give you the steps you need to bring it before the Lord today. The first thing you want to do right off the top, acknowledge you are a sinner. That is something that we all are. The good news is that God gave his only Son, Jesus Christ, to die on that cross for the sins of all the world. As he died and rose again for you and me, he paid the cost. What you have to do is repent of your sin. That means to turn from sin, not just to say you're sorry and jump back to your old ways, but to actually turn from sin, which are those lifestyles, patterns, habits, behaviors, things in your life that go against the Word of God. If you humbly go before the Lord, though, and ask him to forgive you, he'll wipe your sin away. The Bible says he doesn't remember it any longer. And then you invite Jesus into your life to be your Lord and Savior. When you do that, you become born again, a child of God. You will have eternal life. Trust me when I tell you there is no greater decision that you will ever make than the one you do to give your life to Christ. And I pray you make that decision today. Again, more info down below. Thank you all again so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'll be back with more. You guys take care. Please be safe out there. God bless each and every single one of you. And I'll talk with you soon.